Welcome back to the Resilient Entrepreneur Podcast. This is Kevin Johnson of Leverage Consulting. And you know how I like to bring different material, different types of things to these episodes, and periodically I like to make it a theme. Well, I'm going to make it a theme for the next few podcasts or episodes, and I have a number in my mind right now, and who knows, it could end up being more than that. But right now, what I wanted to focus on with this podcast in the next few, it's really about hang-ups, obstacles, challenges, things that it could be anything from negative self-talk, which we're all guilty of, to things that are like what we hear our team talk about, what we hear from other people, what we hear in the public, what we hear when we get on social media, if you watch the news. So there's all kinds of hang-ups and obstacles and challenges, and some of those things have always been there, but they're just seasoned a little bit differently because of COVID or because of the environment right now and different things. But, you know, the reality of it is things are not what everyone makes them out to be, okay? So what I want to do is share with you for just a few minutes here in this podcast is I want to share with you a little bit about the realities of what I see going on in the world. And this is really a very important point in this whole podcast is do your own work, do your own research, keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, and really pay attention to what's going on in the world and don't rely on everyone else because there's a tremendous amount of negativity out there. And there's also a lot of information that's just not true. I mean, it was interesting. I listened to a podcast by a tax attorney recently, and it's exactly what he did. You know, there was a lot of information out there about the rich and famous and how much they pay in taxes. And evidently, there was someone who leaked a bunch of tax returns from some very wealthy people or rich people, however you'd like to classify them. And to be honest with you, the information that was put out there was it was untrue. We'll put it that way. So here's one of the things that I hear a lot about right now is that a lot of people aren't working or people don't have money right now. And, you know, personally, I had we'll keep it sanitary or keep it clean today, but I had a heck of a learning experience or an eye-opening experience recently where Shelly and I were out in Arizona and we ended up going out to dinner, and right next door was a nice mall. So we ended up going to the mall and we were walking through. Now, mind you, a lot of the stores are still following COVID restrictions where they might be limiting the number of people in the store and different things like that. And this somewhat plays into what I'm talking about here. But they're still following a lot of this, so they're limiting the number of people that are allowed to even come into a lot of the stores. I mean, you're walking down the mall and there's velvet ropes or something across the front of it, and you know they only allow so many people in. And I want to tell you, in this mall, there was Prada, there was Coach. In fact, there was Rolex, Omega, Breitling, and a number of other higher-end watches. A tremendous amount of higher-end purse and accessory manufacturers, sellers, department stores, and different things. But I have to tell you, I feel like I am a student of life. I pay attention to things. I'm always listening to what's going on. But that was still somewhat of a shocking experience because we're walking down the mall. Louis Vuitton, Coach, and Prada. They had a line. So think about the last time back when we used to go to the movies. Think where there was a velvet rope, or even for maybe that really trendy club to get into the club, you had the guy with the ropes and he's taking names down and he's only allowing so many people into the club and you had to wait in line to get into the club. Well, let me tell you something. That's exactly what it looked like at each one of those purse stores. Louis Vuitton, Prada, and Coach. All three of those, there was a waiting line to get into the store. A waiting line. Now, we're talking about that many of these purses start out, at least, I mean, you could even get the little teeny wallet and you could be spending easily $500. You could then get into something where you're talking about a purse that just a cute little clutch, right? You know, one of those ones that you'd love to have, you admire. $2,600 just for a little teeny purse. And then, of course, they have and people are walking around these these great big bags, which I know are a lot more money, or they even have luggage and different things like that. And all these things in to me, they're crazy expensive. But people are buying these things left and right. And, all this is building up to something here in a minute. But so here's all these high-end purse stores, and we have a line to get in. They're selling the stuff left and right. And I'm watching people walk out with bags. So it's not like they're window shopping. They're not there for the air conditioning. They're actually in there and buying. I walked into the Rolex store. I thought I knew a little bit about this. When I walked into that Rolex store, I walked in and I was initially greeted by someone, and they said, well, what are you looking for? And really, I admire watches a lot. I own one good watch. And I just like looking at watches. I'm kind of fascinated by the styling and other things about them. But in walking through that, they said, what are you looking for? I said, really, I'm here to window shop. I want to see what you have. And they said, well, we have 5. We're talking about an entire store, a Rolex store front in this mall where the rent, just to have the space, is crazy expensive. And they have 5 watches to sell. And I started asking the salesperson about the watches, the few that they had, but also like what's going on. And essentially she said, if you ordered a watch from me right now, you're not going to get a watch for at least 2 to 3 years. She said you might luck out that we get one that we pre-ordered that you might be interested in, but if you ordered it today, it will probably be 2 to 3 years. And then on top of it, it may be that for the stores and Rolex itself to catch up, it's going to be 5 to 10 years. That's how many watches they're selling. And I even reached out to a friend who has a jewelry store, and the watches themselves are probably selling for a 30% premium right now. So if you wanted a $12,000 Rolex, add 30% to that. Just because they can, just because there's a shortage. So the reason I'm going through all this is you take just that experience in the store. You look at even pickup trucks right now. Pickup trucks are selling for a premium. If you can find one, it could be that the dealer is adding, not even that you go and negotiate the sticker price down. No, they're actually adding $5,000 to $15,000 to pickup trucks or Escalades or any of these types of vehicles because they can. And guess what? People are buying them. So when you think about what you do for a living, and when you think about your team, yourself, and the self-talk or the discussion that we have about people having money, or maybe we're prejudging whether they have the money or not, you really need to look at the world around us. And it could be that some of the people who could afford things before, okay, it's fine. Maybe they can't now. But I can guarantee you there are people in your community that hands down, they can and will be able to buy or purchase the service or product that you have. And it was another interesting thing. There's a very good friend of mine, it's an oral surgeon, and he has a practice in the Midwest. He's in an area where if I said take his practice and compare the stats for his area, maybe relative to yours, it could be that you're in a better place than he is. But I will tell you, he's doing 1 to 2 full arch cases per week. 1 to 2 per week. And those of you who are in the know, you know what kind of fees run alongside that. So there are people in your community who can afford what you do. It may be a different pool of people. It may be the very same people. It may be that nothing has changed other than the conversations. And it may be that we need to have different conversations with other people. Things have changed. And when I say things have changed in the sense that we may go about things differently, or the way people talk about things may be different. But the reality of it is, in many circles, it's business as usual. And in some cases, it's actually better. So if you get anything out of this podcast, I want you to really do your own research. I want you to really look at the world around you and maybe look at what goes on at your office, at your practice, at your business, and think about, do we prejudge, or are we holding back? Or are we the ones that's really the problem in this whole equation? And we really need to think about how we are conducting ourselves and how we're working with our customers, our patients, our clients, and really think about who it is that we can work with, because I can guarantee you your competition is working with them. And the question is, how badly do you want to work with them? So that, my friends, is the Resilient Entrepreneur Podcast. I guarantee you your competition's out there doing it. I want you to do it as well. As always, if you have questions, comments, please feel free to contact me. Drop the comments below. And as I alluded to in the beginning of this podcast, there's a number of these that I'm going to be bringing to you. I hope you enjoyed this one, because there's more really good podcasts coming up soon.